let's go ahead and begin. And people can join as they come. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Please let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. I'll try to be as loud as I can. May peace and blessings be upon you all. I'd like to start by thanking all of you for joining us today in this Introduction to Homeschooling webinar. I can't express how thankful we are for your participation. It really means a lot to us. We feel very blessed, my partners and I, to be able to speak to you today. Before we introduce ourselves, I want to help you all understand the motivation behind our efforts. Each of us comes from a very different background. However, we're very passionate about home education. And with our experiences, whether they were good or bad, we hope to guide others during this time of instability. The pandemic has caused us to rethink our lives and the way we educate our children. We may have been forced into situations that were once inconceivable. Today, my friends and I want to offer each of you the support that every mother deserves. Whether you plan to homeschool full-time, if this is going to be maybe a stopgap with whatever life's challenge, whatever challenge life has thrown your way at this time, or if you just really want to hear about what homeschooling is about, we hope to join you on your newest educational adventure. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today. Our goal is to introduce the concept of homeschooling through three main points of discussion. We hope to answer three essential questions. First, what is homeschooling? Next, what are the different homeschooling methodologies? And lastly, why? Why should one homeschool? Please keep all of your questions handy, as we're going to have a short Q&A session at the end of our discussion. And if you could, please keep yourself muted until the Q&A session, that would be great. Sorry, I'm having trouble admitting somebody.
Okay.
Can you please? Next, I'd like to go ahead and introduce my friends and I. Who is Mama the teacher? Well, let me introduce myself first. My name is Risham Jacobs. I have been homeschooling since my eldest was about 18 months old. And I know there isn't much homeschooling then, but I really wanted socialization. So we created a co-op and really made sure he had activities to do. I have 4 children. My eldest is 12 in 7th grade. My second eldest is 9 years old and he's in 4th grade. The next one down, number 3, is 7 years old, 2nd grade. And my youngest is the newest to the educational world. She's 5 and she has just begun kindergarten. Let me say that when we began homeschooling, it really wasn't something that everyone encouraged, but we felt like it was the right path. We really wanted to increase and add religion to any education that they had. So that was a big deal for us. Our motivation was really to guide our children in a way that was outside the box, and of course, to allow them to do a lot of extracurricular activities without the stress that is imposed by the educational system that, in school in general. Like the amount of hours that a child goes to school, I can educate in about that 6 hours, I can educate all 4 of my children, and they still have extra playtime and they get to do all kinds of cool activities because we've got some availability in our scheduling when no one else is available. So that was kind of the background history on why I began homeschooling. And as you can see, there are some other facts about me, but this was why I started homeschooling. Now let me have my friend Esma introduce herself.
Hey everyone, may peace and blessings be upon all of us here today. My name is Esma and I'm a homeschooling mother of 3. We have been homeschooling from the get-go, and our reasons for homeschooling were many, but more importantly, we started to homeschool because we were not happy with the schools that were around, that were close to us. And luckily, we found a few homeschooling families, and together we built the very first local homeschooling cooperative. I've been a part of that community for the past 7 years, if not more. We have also we've homeschooled through many seasons of life. We've homeschooled through sicknesses. We've homeschooled across countries, and also through the pandemic. I'm very excited for you guys to be here today and to share my experiences. And I would now request my friend Ala to kindly introduce herself.
Thank you, Asma. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Ala, and I'm a mother of two and have been homeschooling since the start. I did not agree with the educational system where I was living and decided to pursue information related to homeschooling my daughter. I searched for local resources at the time, and I didn't really find much information. So I decided to start the first local co-op for homeschoolers where I met a bunch of families who had similar goals in mind. This was a blessing for me because even after moving around, I realized that homeschooling is truly the best method for my family, and I love it more and more each day. I started off doing school at home and followed a strict curriculum, but after much trial and error, I realized that it wasn't working for me and decided to be more eclectic to allow for more wiggle room when it came to the curriculum and scheduling. I now consider myself an eclectic homeschooler, but who knows what the future will bring as we learn more about ourselves. So this is just to show you that there are different kinds of homeschooling, which we will learn more about with the slideshow. And to answer the first question of this webinar, what is homeschooling? Here's Esma again.
Hey everyone. So let's dive right into what is homeschooling. Can we make sure that everybody can hear us? Because I feel like if someone messaged me that the voice is unclear.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So let's dive right into what is homeschooling. Hold on. So according to the dictionary, homeschooling is education of children at home by their parents. Different people perceive homeschooling in different ways. What do you think when you think about homeschooling? Is this homeschooling? Kids by themselves with no one to guide them? Or is this homeschooling? Playing all day without a care? Unfortunately, many moms consider homeschooling to be an impossible and unattainable task. But in order to establish what homeschooling truly is, let's talk about what homeschooling is not. Homeschooling is not an exact imitation of school at home. Yes, there is a classroom. Yes, there's structure. And yes, there are lots and lots of amazing books. But that is only a part of what homeschooling truly offers. Homeschooling is more about real life experiences, learning as life happens. The difference between a school and real life is that in the school, the teacher teaches a lesson and the kids are given a test based off of that lesson. But in real life, what happens is that you have a test and you learn a lesson from that test. So because homeschooling is enables real life learning every single day, it opens the door to unlimited learning. Homeschooling is a beautiful balance between structured and unstructured learning. For example, homeschool children are able to do science in the kitchen or math at the grocery store, or even while playing games. They also enjoy geography on real-life road trips. Homeschool children are also involved in many activities around the house. They're also oftentimes teaching their siblings, and therefore this helps them not only build confidence, but also responsibility, helps them connect with their siblings, teaches them compassion, forgiveness, and builds strong family bonds. And also, and this bridges the communication gap that exists between families these days. The next one that keeps being brought up a lot and that we homeschoolers have to often answer to is socialization. So are homeschool children socially awkward? No. Homeschool children are not socially awkward because homeschooling does not lack in socialization. In fact, it is quite the opposite because kids are not confined to the classrooms. So, and this allows them to interact more outside of, the school setting or just the class setting. The homeschooling children are participate in many social and charitable activities within the communities. And they also have many extracurricular activities happening every single day. Just to reiterate that here's a study that was done to measure communication, daily living, socialization, maturity between homeschool children and public school kids. And as you can see, homeschoolers outscored public school kids on every level. The next one is that homeschooling is not, it is not a one-size-fits-all model. Every child has a different learning style. Every child has a special talent, and homeschooling, because it is so diverse and it has so many different methodologies, it helps the mother, who is the parent, to be in control and have the authority to cater to those learning styles. This not only enhances the quality of education or the effectiveness of education, it also makes learning very enjoyable, and thereby building the desire for lifelong learning in the child. Here, the next one. Okay, the next one, please. So this was a study that was done by the HSLDA. The study showed that homeschool children, on an average, were a grade level higher than those going to public schools. And by the 8th grade, that gap was widened, and they were about 4 levels higher than the average public school going child. So lastly, homeschooling is an age-old practice that was considered cutting edge and alternative, but has now become mainstream in the United States. There are around 2.5 million homeschool children in the United States, with homeschooling experiencing a growth rate of 2 to 8% every year. In the UK, homeschooling has increased by a whopping 40% just in the last 3 years. I would like to end my part of the discussion by a quote by Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. Whoever follows a path in pursuit of knowledge, God, the most merciful, will make easy for him a path to paradise. So with that, I would request my dear friend and colleague, Risham Jacobs, to talk to you guys about the different types of homeschooling.
So let's talk about the types of homeschooling. There are so many types of homeschooling. And in fact, as many families that homeschool, there is as many families as you can find that homeschool, that's has many types of homeschooling methodologies as there really are. We all create our own methods at the end of the day. But let's talk about some of the most mainstream methodologies, things that are popular and maybe you've even heard of when you're trying to sign your children up for that amazing private school or local school that's available. So let's talk first about the school at home, virtual public schooling methodology. Now, you guys, this is probably the most popular at this point, right? When we think of homeschooling, especially through the pandemic, this is what we mean by homeschooling. A child, and they'll have a curriculum that is pre-purchased or it's being streamed through some sort of public service, whether it's a school or whatever. They'll do whatever 5 subjects or a complete school day's worth of work through this process. Now, these on the homeschooling side, we actually have scripted box sets you can buy. But nowadays, people think of it really as sort of an online way of learning. So, you know, we talk about having a space, you know, a virtual schooler or a homeschooler that uses this methodology will have their own space, whether it's the kitchen table or you've created a little classroom for yourselves. You'll typically keep a spot just for schoolwork. You may not have time for as many play dates or field trips, but that might work in sometimes, but you're going to try to complete every subject every day. Next, let's talk about the classical methodology. This is one that actually I chose to utilize. I'm a very A-type personality. I worry that my children aren't getting everything that all other children, you know, school children are getting. So what I decided to do was make sure that I had that scripted set. It was a curriculum that was certified and accredited, but I got lucky. Throughout the program that I was using, they also incorporated this classical methodology, so which is broken down into 3 parts: the grammar, the logic, and the rhetoric. And really what you're looking at with this is when your child is in the grammar stage, they will learn how to learn. The logic stage, they will learn to implement logic and understand how logic works. Later, in their high school years, that rhetoric age, they'll learn how to apply all of that to bigger topics. A big name you'll hear in this is Miss Susan Wise Bauer. She literally wrote the book on it, and you'll hear things like the well-trained mind mentioned when you talk about classical. Now, often, a lot of these programs are religious-based. And so what do we mean by that? Often it's Christian-based because you'll find the largest base of homeschoolers are Christian. Now, there's a lot of other religions that are kind of up and coming in creating homeschooling material. A lot of it also does come from America, you'll find, or from, you know, the UK and so on. But you can incorporate whatever you like, or in fact, even keep it secular. For my family, I purchase things that are secularly based, and then I adjust and I add what we feel is appropriate. Now, let's talk a little bit about Waldorf. Now, Waldorf is a big name in alternative learning. Waldorf is also divided into stages of development when teaching. Similarly classical, but not the same stages. What you'll find is music plays a significant part, as well as things such as fairy tales and theatrical play. That's very important. Also, technology is frowned upon until the later years, basically in high school. Let's talk about Montessori. Miss Maria Montessori. I remember when my children were first starting out in their educational journey, I really wanted them to sign up for a Montessori school. I don't know if any of you ever felt like that. There is something cool in the community and it's in. So this was my, I think I have to do this. Based on the teachings of Miss Maria Montessori, she was an Italian doctor actually. She also utilizes a multi-age group, so children of multiple ages in one classroom. A Montessori teacher isn't actually a teacher, it's a guide. She is a guide or he is a guide. And what they will do is they'll set up different components and different specialized materials, and the child will complete each task. So can you implement that as a homeschooler in your home? Absolutely. Even myself, who's a very rigid schooler, I feel like, I utilize a lot of Montessori materials, and my children love the manipulatives that come with classical or Montessori learning. You're never stuck to one methodology, but this gives you a general guide as to what direction you may want to start out in. So how do we as homeschoolers implement the Montessori methodology? Well, you might have a larger block of time that you give the children to work on components or whatever they may be interested in. They're usually work centers, like in the picture, and they'll complete the task or have real world tasks, actually, like buttoning your shirt, zip up your zipper, put on your socks, and so on and so forth. Let's move to the relaxed minimalist schooler. What do we mean here? The relaxed homeschooler tends not to worry so much about schedules. They're also not as concerned about making sure every subject is taught on a daily basis. There may be still a curriculum that's purchased, so they'll use whatever or utilize whatever they feel is appropriate for the child. And some of it may be computer-based. Often these subjects that'll be purchased will be like math or science-based. This is highly customizable. Now, no worries about working on every subject every day. We'll get through whatever we need to learn. Lastly, unschooling. Guys, this is a buzzword. People come to me and they say, what is this unschooling business? Well, let's talk a little bit about it. It's about letting your child lead the way. And what do we mean by that? Well, the parent becomes the facilitator. You're no longer leading the child in what they want to learn. You're making sure what they want to learn happens, whether it's by getting to the library, whether you're taking those awesome nature walks, whether you're buying old computer parts for them to play with and manipulate. Whatever it may be, you're there to make sure that they have support in their learning journey. Unschooling will often take just as much effort and time as any other methodology, but again, it's just more child-led. Not that all the other methodologies can't be, but this one's very specific to that underlying theme. With that, I would like to pass the baton to my friend Ala, but before I do, I want to see if all of you are awake. We're going to launch a poll and get some of your opinions and thoughts. I know we've kept you quiet, so maybe we're going to launch the poll. You should see something pop up on your screen. About 5 questions, if you wouldn't mind answering them for us. And Ms. Salah, you take over whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you, Risham. All right, so the last question for today's webinar is why homeschool? So why should I homeschool instead of continuing doing what I'm doing, whether it's sending my kids to school even through the pandemic or doing virtual school and letting their other teachers take control. So lots of questions that come into mind are, what about socialization? But I'm not qualified to teach my child. Kids don't listen to their mother, or my kids don't listen to me. So these are a lot of concerns, and feel free if you do have any of these concerns or questions to proceed and type them into the chat, and we will get to those at the end. So the first reason why I believe people should homeschool is customization. Think about it. How much extra do we pay to customize everything in our life? Whether it's customized phone cases, customized paint colors, custom fit clothing. So why not get customization that homeschooling can give? And best of all, it's free. Everything that's customized is valued in our society. So life is the best teacher through natural experiences. There are different ways that we learn. Some people are visual learners, others do wonderfully as auditory learners. And then we have kinesthetic learners. Who decided to make education a one-size-fits-all institution that punishes people who learn differently? Even within these different types of learning, it's never just black or white. There are a lot of variations. So think about learning a recipe for the first time through reading while you're in school. What if you were a kinesthetic learner or an auditory learner and would prefer to hear or see the recipe being done? Better yet, what if you were a kinesthetic learner and you wanted to actually experience actually making it in order to learn well? A teacher in a traditional school cannot cater to everyone's learning needs. But you, as a parent, have the option to do that. You can help your kinesthetic child, you can help your auditory child, or your visual child all at the same time and do it flawlessly. A second reason why people should choose to homeschool is, as Asmat mentioned before, academic excellence. That's another reason why a lot of people decide to hop into homeschooling. A simple Google search will pull up a bunch of statistics to show how homeschooled children typically score higher on many standardized tests. So depending on where you live, you might find that schools in your area are not up to par. And the result is overwhelmingly giving way to a system that fails the students because it never catered to their individual needs to begin with. It never catered to their uniqueness as a child. It made them feel dumb. It made them feel like they weren't worth the education. And something needs to be done. Colleges are recruiting more and more homeschoolers because they were given these customized educations and can think outside the box. Moving on to the next reason why people should homeschool, it being freedom. So freedom is a big one for me. I feel like schools are an institution that bring up factory workers. Think about it, a 9-to-5 job, 7-to-3 school day. You're basically sitting tied down to a chair all day, relentless schedules that are not really necessary. There's no true purpose. And for the better part of the day, you're just sitting in a classroom waiting for the hours to go by. Come on, I want to go home. And when you go home, you still have more homework. And you as a parent are still dealing with that side of things as well. So why not give your child the freedom to think freely and to be creative with their free time? With all those hours, why not let them have the confidence to be themselves 100%, however you believe they should be, instead of following everyone else? Will have the full right to give them their freedom, to elaborate themselves and to be their own character as they grow older. Next, the final reason is quality time. So us as parents, we know that raising children can be very, they could drive up the wall sometimes, and that's regardless whether we homeschool or not. Kids are just kids. But we chose to be parents, and why not dive into parenting and truly incorporate ourselves with our kids, truly feel them. The days are long, but the years are short. So why not take control of your family and enjoy your maternal instincts? Your child was born and you taught them to speak their first word, take their first step, eat their first food, take their first fall, and live through it with love. What makes you think that you aren't qualified to continue being their parent and teacher in life? Why not see them read their first words, write their first book, and bring their first imaginations to life? Why not be there for them as they see their weaknesses and strengths? Why not be their guide as they enter adulthood and choose their paths? That is the beauty, in my opinion, the absolute beauty of homeschooling that I am grateful for. Being able to facilitate that, to see the growth, to support them, to see where they are weak, where are their strengths, where are their weaknesses, and help guide them through that. And with that, that's basically the gist of our webinar today. But I'd like to introduce, what are we here for? And let's start off by saying what we're not here for. We're not here to make money from you. That's not our intention or our priority. You can do the work and research yourself. And we would be honored that we helped you overcome any doubts and insecurities that you had about homeschooling. However, for those of you who need support, especially in these times of pandemic, or if you want to simplify your life and save yourself the effort, that's what Mama the Teacher is here for. We offer the following services. We offer goal setting, curriculum selection, and scheduling/organization. And you purchase one or purchase all as a package. So we're offering them as a package, all inclusive, for 2,000 or at an hourly rate of 250. But for those who are signing up today, after today's webinar, we are going to proceed and reduce those costs. So instead of 2,000 for the all-inclusive package or 250 for the hourly rate, it is going to be at 1,500 for the package and 175 at an hourly rate. To further drive the point that we really are not here to make money off of you, we really want to help, but it is humanly impossible to help everybody that we want to help. We just can't do it. But we'd like to help at least a case per month. If you feel like you are truly in desperate need, like you really want to homeschool, but you can't pay the costs and are in desperate need of some educational consulting, then email us with your story. Let us know why you need our help and what your goals are for your homeschool. What challenges do you think you'll face and how we can help you? And once a month, we will take on a special case and offer our services completely for free. We just hope to benefit you as much as possible and to open up your eyes as to what homeschooling truly is, because it is a wonderful journey and a lot of people are just too scared to take that first step. Finally, we're going to move on to questions for anybody who may have any questions. And I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar. And I hope that this leads the way to a more fulfilling path for your family. So raise your hand if you have any questions, or you could feel free to type your questions privately or to everyone in the chat box, and we will begin answering. I have a question. How do we manage homeschooling multiple grade levels? So I assume this person means like kids of different ages. How are you going to manage that?
Go ahead. I think I've got the kind of the most diversity as far as having to deal with levels. Like my kids are just far enough apart where I really can't teach them the same subjects at the same time. And like I said, I'm one of those rigid people who has to have everything in order and it has to be perfect. And it really makes me a little bit crazy, but that's okay. So what I'll do is I use their kind of their natural sleep cycle and their natural, you know, the way that they naturally do things in a day to support my sanity. So my young get up a little later. That lets me get my eldest started, and he knows he's got a schedule. He knows what he needs to do. We post it on the board, but he's always known. So 8 o'clock in the morning, that kid, he's up and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Number two, he also knows that he's got some instruction, but he can get started and mom is there to support him. Number three, now he's kind of little. He's just in 2nd grade. He needs a lot of attention. He'll come to me and we just go through everything we possibly can before that little one wakes up. And like I said, she naturally wakes up a little later, and the others, the eldest tends to wake up first. So he is easy for me to get started, and so on and so forth. We really do spend a lot of time letting the older children teach the younger children. Now, I want you to know that in itself is a test in patience, but I really do hope that as siblings, this will bond them. I struggle to bond with my sibling, but I'm hoping that all the craziness that my kids have had to deal with together will really help them when they're adults and still connect with one another. I hope this helps. You know, please let me know if I can answer any further questions, or Asma or Ala, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think we're good. Do you have any more questions?
Okay, I have another question here that somebody asked. How do we teach our kids and take care of daily household chores? That's a good one. Does anyone want to jump in, or should I give my 2 cents?
I think go for it.
All right. I think that, first of all, as the joke goes, you could just give that as part of their home economics education. So you could just give the kids tasks and that's it. And it's all done. We're all good. But no, seriously speaking, it is definitely something to think about and something to manage. But I feel like it's not any harder than if your kids are at school or if they're at home. It's definitely manageable. You could allot chores. It's gonna be more work on you. We are not saying that homeschooling is easy. It's just as easy as sending your kids and having free time. It's not. It's not. But this is a privilege that we were given to be their parents, and taking on that role needs some work. So making a schedule of a chore chart, dividing those chores for the kids, and of course you will oversee that. And then there are times during teaching, especially depending on the child's age, where there are breaks. You can give breaks just like within traditional school. And during those breaks, I cook up something, I prep the chicken for the day, prep the veggies, whatever it may be, give them their snack time, and things just flow. It just happens. It becomes a part of the daily process, and you'll get used to it.
And
If
yeah, and
Ismat
also
wants to add something.
yeah, and also if you meal prep, you have a day in the week where make freezer meals and freeze them. You're set for the week, and I think that's what most moms, uh, homeschooling mothers, they do that. So I think that's a great way of sort of reducing the daily workload.
I mean, working moms
Exactly.
do it too, right? Not just not us special homeschoolers, but every kind of working mom. We did just get a really great question, and the question was, on average, how much time do you spend um, with your child's learning? Like, how much time do you spend teaching? I'm assuming in the day. I'll start with it, and I'm hoping Ala and Desma will also join in because their experiences are a little different from mine. I find on average, my children need approximately each child needs about 2 to 3 hours of dedicated time, work time. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily instruction time, but each child needs about 2 to 3 hours on average. And I mean, we're working through a lot. The first month, it's not like that. Just like when you go to school, the first week, you spend learning each other's names and what color the other kid likes. And here are the classroom rules. So, okay, we start a little early because we need a week or two to just kind of get in the rhythm every year and look at the new books that we got and work through that excitement. But then on average, my kindergartner can finish her day up like we're working on phonics and we're reading, and I got to pull out like 1,000 cards for that girl. We'll finish up in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Again, a little bit older, second grade, he's taking approximately 2 hours. My fourth grader, he needs closer to 3.5, 4 hour range, and as well as my seventh grader. On math alone, he spends at least 2 hours a day. It's a lot of dedication, and then we also have some other stuff in the background. We're doing some Quran memorization and so on and so forth, and that takes several hours of his day as well. So that gives you an idea of what it's like. But for me, I say I do kind of like a teacher's day. I do about eight to lunchtime on a good day. Otherwise, we're working till 2:30, from 8 to 2:30. And then I just want you to know our lunch break is like, we're like divas. We sit down and we eat, and we're all like, my kids are like, listen, I don't want to talk to you. I want to eat. I'm not going to answer any like history questions that you want to give me a pop quiz on as I got my turkey sandwich. None of that. They just ignore me, and frankly, I ignore them. So that gives you an idea of kind of how my days. But again, I've got multiple children, multiple age groups. I know that, like Esma, if you want to chime in, you're able to do some of the stuff together.
Yeah, exactly. I have two kids who I'm homeschooling, and I have a baby. So my oldest is in grade 3, and I have a 8-year-old who is almost 8-year-old who is in grade 2. So with my older son, so basically how our day goes is that we our day starts at 7:30. The first thing that they do is Quran, and after that we have a little breakfast time that usually lasts about an hour and a half, and we start our day with some stories of the prophet is what we're doing right now. So and then we dive right into math, language arts, and all of the core subjects. So both my children, I feel like they're further apart, but not that. So I combine history and I combine science for both of them. They also do spelling on the same level. So there are a lot of subjects that we combine for them. So I that really helps a lot, and it's also great fun. It's really fun, and they bond over it, and it's really alhamdulillah. It's a blessing. And I think we're done by 12:30. We're almost done, and then we take a lunch break in between. So by 2 o'clock, we're done. So you see, it's not like we're constantly into books uh, from the morning. We're just taking breaks, taking it easy, and really taking life as it goes. But by 2 o'clock, we're mostly done, and then they're free to do whatever they want after that. So Lulu, you wanna give in your 2 cents?
Yeah, I don't want to add too much to it, but basically, you know, that's the beauty of homeschooling. You make your own schedule, or you follow a strict schedule, however you feel your family is best suited for it. So I started off with like a strict schedule, and I felt like, wait, like what am I doing? I'm not enjoying this. So my style became more eclectic. And we definitely are the family that start school later after we are fully awake, and we go in further during the day. But my daughter is in seventh grade, so it's a little bit more relaxed now. I'm a little more offhand, whereas like a few years ago, I was way more in touch with her, you know, doing the games and the hands-on activities with her because she was younger. But as a seventh grader, there's more reading involved. There's more just structured work that she has to do in order to just get the information she needs. But that's the beauty of it. It's all through the basics of reading and the love of learning. Moving on to the next question we have. Somebody asked, what would determine that my kid is ready for the next level? So would there be some sort of an evaluation procedure or test, or does it just go with the flow? Especially because all the kids have their own paces. Does anyone want to answer that?
Asma, do you want to start out on that one?
Sorry, yeah.
So
I
the
mean,
question is that, you know, how do we determine if the child is ready?
Okay, so for me, I think every family, it's different. For me, there's a lot of curriculum out there that's specific for certain grades or certain levels. With homeschooling, you will see that it's not grade specific. They have different levels depending on your child, where he or she is at. So for me, it's I decide what I am gonna do for the year, and when I'm done, and I kind of assess it. How do I assess it? I think I assess it with comparing. I don't do standardized tests yet, but that is definitely the plan. So I think Risham, you do standardized tests.
I do standardized tests. Like I said, I'm one of those. I have to have everything kind of in order. I make portfolios for my kids. I used to do report cards. And I do want to just say there's somebody who's kindly raised their hand. We'll get to you just in a moment. We'll just finish answering this question. I just want to reiterate that, or iterate that um, it's never too early or too late to start homeschooling. I had a friend of mine just recently say, my son's already in high school. Is there even a way for me to start homeschooling him now? Absolutely. He might actually be easier for you to start homeschooling than, your youngest. Sometimes the idea of teaching a child who's never read before how to read, that's quite intimidating, but very doable. If I can do it, you can do it. But assessments, yes, there are assessments because I'm the test girl, right? You can definitely look online and find the assessments. And some of this homeschooling curricula, what they offer is a free assessment for math and for English and for just about anything to see what grade level your child is at already. So I know other homeschooling moms utilize these tests to really skip a grade, honestly. So they'll want to move on to the next year's material, but they're not sure. So that's one way to do it. But like I said, there are lots of websites. And like I said, there's a bunch of free ways to do it. Just if you go to the curriculum's website and they will have assess your child for math or whatever.
So, but like, I just want to add that, definitely when you begin to homeschool, this is a concern. And if you want to, work on the testing just for documentation, that's a different, but what happens is that as you go along, as you, you homeschool year after year, you realize that your child is actually ahead and you stop worrying. He's ahead than more many other public school kids. You will see that, you will notice that, and it does not become a concern. But if you want to do it for documentation, then that's a different story.
And the person who has raised their hand, please go on ahead and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Like,
Ala, we definitely need to catch up. A couple questions. I came in a little later on, so I didn't get the beginning part of the meeting. I'm a public school teacher. I teach in the Philadelphia School District, and I homeschooled my kids about 2 years ago. But I was following PALC's, Pennsylvania Leadership Charter. I love their program. I love their curriculum. And it's very different from the Philadelphia Public School District. But I wanted to know, are you following a particular curriculum or are you making it as you go?
Thank you for the question, Helen. Yes, I actually, because I started off homeschooling way back when I was in Saudi Arabia. So I did not start homeschooling here. So coming here, I was actually very anxious about, oh no, I have to follow these rules and I have to report to the district. So this is to show that like you could homeschool no matter where you are on the world. So what I'm doing personally in Philadelphia is I'm following my own curriculum. I'm literally just pulling out books from the public library. This is a public library book. And I'm just like, hey, we're gonna do this book for these 3 weeks. And then if we like it, we'll continue. We don't like it, we move on. And I'm pulling things from wherever and sourcing them. And all I have to do, because we are in Philadelphia, we are required to report to the school district. Every year I fill out these forms. So it's like an affidavit certifying that I'm going to teach my daughter the following subject with the following objectives. And I get that approved, signed and authorized, and I send it into the superintendent. He's really a nice guy for Philadelphia, by the way. And that's it.
Dr. Hadi?
No, his name is Sean Baker. Sean Baker.
Oh.
Yeah,
Have
he's
you
really
ever
easy.
had, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Have you ever had them like deny something, or they just kind of like approved it every time that you sent in the paperwork?
Excellent question. In Philadelphia, I had no problem. I briefly moved out of Philadelphia when I lived with my parents for about a year, and that was in Delaware County. When I filed over there, they gave me a hard time. They started asking me for my immunization records. They started asking me to come in person and give them the paperwork because they wouldn't accept a copy via email. But even with that, it wasn't a big deal. There's a website, I think it's called askpauline.com. And there she gives you all the information that you need regarding homeschooling in all of Pennsylvania. And you know that Pennsylvania is huge. So Philadelphia, we're actually lucky. I've noticed that Philadelphia is actually pretty lenient compared to the rest of PA. But just outside in Delaware County, I had a little bit of a hiccup, but it's not bad because you just file that paperwork once a year and you're done. It's a set it and forget it until the next year.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ala. Thank you, ladies. Jazakum Allah khair.
We're currently abroad and from the U.S., but we've looked a lot, and I feel like all of us have looked into national rules as well as state by state and nation, whether it's just Canada or whether you're going to the UK, whether you're in the UK and you're homeschooling. And people ask things like, is it legal, so on and so forth. Most countries, I will point out that Germany, it is illegal to homeschool. So and things are changing. Even France is looking at banning homeschooling and so on and so forth. But generally, the whole world is fairly open to it. Some places you may be a little bit quieter about what you do, but whatever your home country may be, you want to follow general guidelines. In the US, I want to say the coasts are the most liberal about it. So I grew up on the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, they're like, not only should you homeschool, we will give you grant money. We will give you the materials to do so, and so on and so forth. We will like support whatever you need to do. The UK, financially, it is your responsibility, but you're really open to do whatever you like. We don't have as much reporting to do for, again, like the West Coast of the US, but we did live in Texas for a long while. And even them, they were very open to it. I've never had to submit any paperwork. I myself keep all the documentation, have used third-party, not only software, but books and documentation. I do try to keep that handy just in case, and really for college applications and so forth. But, we talked about box sets where you can buy everything. Like, it'll tell you what to say to your kid. From the beginning of your morning to the end of the day. So, you can't get too much easier than that.
I think we did.
We have another question.
Is it difficult when you're associated with a homeschooling group? May I trouble you to clarify that question a little bit? Or if the two of you feel like you understand that question better than I do, please go ahead.
I mean, not associated. Is it difficult when you're not associated?
Oh, sorry. There you go. Misread it.
I think it doesn't really matter. I think I've homeschooled here where I'm currently at, and I've homeschooled in different countries, and I didn't have the support. But really it becomes a way of life, and I think you just learn to. I think you self-suffice. That's been my experience.
When I began in the Northern Dallas area, we didn't have anything that kind of met my needs. There were a bunch of Christian homeschooling entities. They were actually really not open to even us participating in their activities. I mean, they would give me excuses. Not that I was really interested, but I just kind of wanted for my kids to socialize, and that I knew that would constantly have activities. In the end, myself and a few other moms got together and we started our co-op. And that was something that when I came abroad, I found that, really we all find each other one way or another. If you're interested, you're gonna make it work, whether it's just play dates on a regular basis for your children. I mean, and for older kids, obviously it's not a play date, but whether it's general meetings whatsoever, whatever for your kids, or finding like-minded moms. And I've had parents literally come to me and say, we would like to befriend you. And I thought, what kind of weird stalkers are you? And they said, someone so-and-so told me you're homeschooling and you're doing this. And we seek families out like you. We seek out families like yourselves because we know that you're going to have certain manners and certain ways of handling yourselves, and your children are not going to be into maybe X, Y, and Z that my children are interested in and introduced to in school. So it's very interesting. People who are schoolers will come and seek out not homeschoolers because they want a better environment for their children. They want better socialization for their kids. And I found that mind-blowing, but a blessing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with the rest. Like it just depends on you and what your goals, what your needs are. In the beginning, when I first started seeking out, some kind of support, I was, my daughter was 4 or 5 years old, and I was like, wow, like I want her to have friends just like in school. And so I didn't find anything. And that's when I started that co-op back in Saudi Arabia. But then, and then coming back here, to the US, I also felt like, wow, I want my daughter to be around other Muslims, like frankly speaking, I want her to be around other Muslim people. And I did find a co-op, but it's a little far from me. So I've been having a hard time going there. But saying that, I haven't been a part of a co-op recently, and it's okay. You just learn to adjust. We have another question that was asked, how can one manage if they get sick? Let me ask you, do school teachers not get sick? They get sick, and there's substitutes, and there's blips and hiccups as well. So you just live through it. You get sick, you take the day off, and you continue the next day, or you give your kids worksheets. You kind of just pull through. If anyone else wants to share.
I mean, homeschooling, yes, it looks like, you're on, it's a one-on-one kind of a setup. But really, as you keep doing it, there's certain subjects that go on autopilot. The kids are doing many subjects by themselves. Uh, you're sick, you can do bed schooling. There is such a thing as bed schooling, and we've done it through sickness, through everything. So I think it's quite possible, and it is a learning experience in itself. It
Sorry, I
teaches
had
the
to say, yeah, go ahead.
it teaches the kids to persevere even in hard times, right?
I want to add, no man is an island, right? There are days that, you know what, they will take care of you because you're not well. And also, there are a lot of ways to outsource the learning. So whether it's a free source like Khan Academy or so on, what I do is I usually try to find the local teenager. They're the best. They're very eager to make a little money without having to babysit, honestly, because they don't want to babysit. They do it for the money. So I've got a neighbor girl who comes twice a week in the morning, and man, she knocks out math and science for my second grader, which I hate science experiments. I'm not like, I need to bookwork. And then I'm done with those two subjects for the week. He's knocked out like 5 lessons. You've got friends, other moms. There are times where, like Ala and Asma are very close to me. We have spent time teaching each other's children. And that's just what you do. So you will find that Asma and that Ala because, God has a plan for you and you will never be given more than you can handle. There will definitely be days where you have to bed school. I have definitely bed schooled with newborn baby, nursing, or on a flight or whatever, but you manage. And I know it's not the same as being sick, but I tell you, I'd rather be sick sometimes than doing, like the heavy lifting after a baby. Any other questions? I used to have a supervisor, a manager used to say, any questions, short stories, or comments? You guys are all welcome to speak to us. Please go ahead.
Thank you again to everyone who joined us today.
Yeah, there are actually many people joining right now.
If there's anyone who has a question, we've done our presentation, but if you have any general questions, we're happy to answer them.
Someone is asking, so is MTT offering a curriculum to purchase? No, we're not offering a curriculum per se. We are offering services for those who need it. Only those who feel like, oh my God, I don't know where to start. How do I search for the right curriculum for myself? As far as curriculums go, that's what we would help you with. We'd help you find a curriculum based on your needs, whether you want it to be hands-on, hands-off, book-based, eclectic. What kind of methodology do you want? Or do you want like a cheap curriculum, an expensive curriculum, a free curriculum? We would help you source that if you are unable to source it yourself.
And if you're looking to achieve certain goals throughout the year, if it is Islamic goals, if it is educational goals, to give you a starting point, give you an ending point, and help you achieve those goals, inshallah.
If there's nothing else, we can end our session. All right, please feel free to exit the session. And if there are any stragglers, we're here to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Is this session available to listen to? We recorded it. We are still deciding on where or whether or not we will post it or if we will have a future session for those of you who missed it.
You're welcome, Laura.
I think we'll probably be able to at least send it to the folks who attended the meeting. I think that
Yes.
shouldn't be a problem.
Mm.
I'm sorry if there was any confusion with the time. Those of our friends in the US just had an awesome night of sleeplessness with daylight savings, right, Avat?
Yes. Today was the new day.
Right. And making sure Zoom compensated. I promise we tried, but I will do my best never to schedule a meeting on the day that daylight savings hits ever again. God willing.
Yes, please.
Right. Even a lot was late this morning.
For those of you who have joined us late, please feel free to contact us on our social media through email, right?
And like I said, we'll try to send it out to at least those of you who are here. We do like to respect everyone's privacy. I don't really feel like we had many people who were shown on the screen or anything like that. So we should be able to share. We'll also try to see where what venues, social media venues we should be able to share on. But with that, unless there are any further questions, we bid you a good day and we thank you again for coming.
So much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
For Iyaki.